Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Rati here. So 2022 guys is going to end in a couple of days and we're going to soon embrace the beautiful and wonderful new year that is 2023. So today I have 5 book recommendations for you guys, 5 books that have been published in 2022 which I strongly think that if you haven't read them yet, you should surely read them in the new year. So without much ado, let's begin. The first book I want to recommend is The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. The Midnight Library is a rather unusually written book that uses the metaphor of the library to comment on human existence, to comment on the way humans make sense of their own life. I don't want to reveal to you the entire plot of the story, but just in a nutshell, The Midnight Library is about this woman in her 30s who is completely dejected and disappointed with her life, and she thinks that, she hasn't achieved the kind of things that she wanted to achieve in her life, so she decides to kill herself. But instead, she finds herself in this fantastic, magical kind of a library, which is the Midnight Library. The speciality of this library is that each book this woman, this lady opens, is basically a version of her own life. It's a version of what her life could have been had she made different choices. So each book she reads offers a different version of her. So suppose if you're an engineer right now and you have this hidden desire, you had this hidden desire to become an artist, then the book would reveal your life trajectory. What would your life had been like had you chosen art as a profession instead of engineering. So every book reveals a different aspect of her own life. So as she reads these different volumes of books, revealing parallel tracks of her different lives, she's obviously mind boggled and she goes through a roller coaster ride of emotions. Sometimes she is doubly disappointed at her own life and regrets the choices that she had not made. But once she, starts reading those books in detail, and once she's about to finish reading those books, then she starts to see for herself the patterns that those other lives are not so perfect, also, after all. So that's when reality starts to sink in, and that's when she begins to regain her confidence, and she, sort of. Then takes a pledge to find a footing in the real world, and that's when the Midnight Library collapses and she returns to the so called real world. The second book that I want to recommend to you guys is Before Your Memory Fades by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. Now, Toshikazu Kawaguchi is a very famous Japanese author, best known for his Before the Coffee Cold series, and this is the latest book of Before the Coffee Cold series. The book is originally written in Japanese, and I read the English translation, which is widely available online. Now, this book uses the metaphor of the cafe to comment on the vagaries of human existence, themes like love, loss, longing, memory, etc. The novel is set in a small cafe in a small town of Japan. On the looks of it, this looks like, a very ordinary, normal cafe where tourists just come and go and pass some time. But the speciality of this cafe is that it's a time traveling cafe. That is, there is a particular chair in this cafe, and once you're seated on the chair and you start drinking a special kind of coffee that's again poured to you in a special way by a person belonging to a particular clan, then you go back in time. That is, you can go back to your past, you can travel back to your past, you can connect with people, you can talk to people, who are no more there, maybe people who are dead, whom you want to meet from your past. You can revisit past events. But the rule is that you can just connect with your past for a certain time, you can visit your past, but you cannot change your past. You cannot undo those actions and you cannot change your present. So that is the rule of this cafe. So in each chapter of the book is devoted to different people, different stories, lives of different characters who come to this cafe with the ulterior motive of revisiting their past and meeting their loved ones. So in one particular chapter there is this famous comedian who comes to this cafe to meet his dead wife from the past. So this is the more or less the story of this storyline of this book. Now, to be honest, when I started reading this book, I was kind of a bit spooked by this theme of, people time traveling and meeting dead people, and sort of constantly going back forth in time, especially the story of comedian, which I'm talking about. There is this thing, when he's going back to the past to meet his wife, he's apparently depressed, and his friend, who is the other comedian, and many other people think that he's actually going back to the past to commit suicide, because there's this one rule that you have to drink all the coffee before it gets cold, because if you are unable to do that, then you stay stuck in the past and you become a ghost. So, this whole thing about people meeting dead people and wanting to return to the past to commit suicide, it can be a bit unsettling and even seem a bit macabre at times. But then the book compensates for it, the writer compensates for it with, a lot of life affirming stuff as well. The book is ultimately life affirming and there's a lot of humor and other interesting stuff. So overall, I would say it's a very interesting kind of a book to read because it completely alters a perception of reality and fantasy, because in so-called normal world, a cafe symbolizes an escape from reality. What do you do when you enter a cafe? You just go there to, escape your real life, have some fun, maybe just read a book, just chill, things like that. And then you get back, when you come outside the cafe, you're getting back to your real life. But this book completely subverts that. Here, when you're entering the cafe, you're actually, time traveling, you're going to your past to come face to face with the demons of your real life. And it is when you exit the cafe, when you come out of the cafe, that your real life, becomes as an escape. Your present becomes an escape from the demons of your own past. So I would say this is a very interesting book, a must read for everyone. The third book I want to recommend to you guys is Violetta by Isabel Allende. Now, Violetta is written in Isabel Allende's characteristic writing style, and one of my favorite authors, Isabel Allende, is. And it's a historical fiction novel. And in a nutshell, this is the story of a South American woman called Violetta, who is talking about, and we get to read her personal story, her own emotional story of her trials and tribulations, up and down. And it's interesting to see how her own personal narrative, her personal story is interjected with, all the major historical happenings of those times, be it the Great Depression, or be it the women's rights movement, or be it the Spanish flu. So all these political events, are her personal stories intertwined with the stories of all these historical narratives, all these political events. We get to read Violetta's story in the form of letters that Violetta has written to her lover, to somebody whom she loves the most. And it is in these letters that she talks about her ups and downs, how she has experienced extreme grief and extreme joy in her life, and how she has seen both extreme riches and extreme poverty. So overall, I would say, since I'm a fan of Isabel Allende, that this is a must-read book, but also because, I think that especially for somebody like me, it works, when you read a historical fiction, then the element of fiction, the storytelling element, you get into the emotions of the story, and then you eventually get drawn to the history side of it. So even for somebody who is not familiar with South American history and the political trajectory of the novel, if you start reading the novel, purely at an emotional angle, purely taking it from a storytelling angle, then you gradually get drawn, you feel compelled towards knowing the history side of it more. So that's why I think you should definitely read this work. The fourth book which I want to recommend to you guys is Magicians of Mazda by Ashwin Sanghi. Now, Ashwin Sanghi is one of the most popular Indian authors in English at the moment, and The Magicians of Mazda is one of the most popular books of 2022, one of the most popular books published in 2022. Again, I do not want to reveal the story plot much. In a nutshell, in very brief, the book is a mix of it's a thriller novel, which is a mix of fantasy, mythology, history. And in a nutshell, I can say that this is the history of Zoroastrians. This traces the historical trajectory of the Parsis, how they fled persecution in Iran, and how they, sort of traveled through different parts of the world and the kind of challenges they faced before ultimately landing in Gujarat in India, the state which the Parsis made their homeland. So the amazing thing about Ashwin Sanghi's book is that even though it's a work of fiction, The Magicians of Mazda, but the kind of research, the kind of authoritative research that has gone into the making of the book is just, amazing. It will just leave you spellbound. And so, yeah, you should read the book to know more about the Magicians of Mazda. I do not want to reveal the plot. The fifth and the last book that I want to recommend to you guys is Youth and Truth by Sadhguru. Now, this is a book which I am immensely fond of, and I reviewed this book on my book for my channel separately as well. Youth and Truth is a collection of Sadhguru's interaction with different students from universities across India, but also abroad. So each chapter is devoted to Sadhguru's interactions with students from a particular university. So universities like Banaras Hindu University, IIT Bombay, Shriram College of Commerce, Delhi University, these kind of education institutions are covered. And each chapter unfolds like a question answer session where students ask Sadhguru different questions, from a range of topics about their life, their personal life, their love life, or their professional life. What should they do in the future? How do they handle their parents? What about their dreams and aspirations? And basically a lot of random stuff. It's a very interesting book, and even though it might sound like a very heavy book, but it's not a heavy book, because the way Sadhguru answers those questions, it's in the layman's language, layman's terminology, so you don't have any high funda terms being thrown over you. And the best part about this book is that whatever answers are revealed by Sadhguru, whatever answers are given by Sadhguru, they can, reveal a lot about your own life as well, because the questions are very generic. So, it's about a lot of issues that concern young people. So as a young person, you can find, solutions, you can find answers to your own problems in the answers given by Sadhguru. So I definitely think you must read this book out. So that's it for today, guys. I had these 5 book recommendations. Thank you so much for listening, and bye for now. If you like the content, please do press the like button, and please do subscribe to the channel. Thank you for listening. Bye for now.